What happens when a moment of sorrow meets an unexpected companion? Life can pivot on the smallest of acts, igniting connections that redefine our existence. On a quiet, nondescript road, a German shepherd named Max ignited a spark of hope that would ripple outwards, touching lives in ways no one could foresee. Picture this: a sultry summer afternoon, the kind that lingers in stillness, where cicadas serenade the air and heat waves dance along the asphalt. On the side of this lonely road, a boy named Danny sat on the edge of despair, tears cascading down his cheeks like a relentless storm. He felt utterly alone, invisible in a world that seemed to have forgotten him. It was at that moment when fate intervened. Max, the German shepherd, caught a glimpse of something in the boy's eyes that transcended his childhood innocent suffering. Max, with his sleek black and tan fur glistening under the sun, was no ordinary dog. He was imbued with an uncanny ability to sense emotions, a gift developed through generations of companionship with humans. Studies in canine psychology demonstrate that dogs have evolved to read our body language and facial expressions with remarkable accuracy. Veterinary Sciences Journal, 2017. As Max approached the sorrowful child, he embodied not just a spirit of warmth and loyalty, but a deep awareness of another's pain. Keen on the boy's distress, Max padded closer, his powerful frame radiating strength and comfort. Danny, absorbed in his misery, initially didn't notice the stunning creature that drew near. But then, a gentle nudge, and Danny's gaze lifted. He froze, his breath hitching as he met the soulful eyes of the German shepherd, eyes brimming with understanding. In that instant, the boy felt a flicker of connection, as if the very fabric of the universe had woven their destinies together. The sheer force of that gaze pierced through Danny's despair, planting the seeds of hopeful possibility. He had found a momentary haven in Max, a reflection of a faithful friend waiting to embrace him without questions, without judgment. But how did they get to this pivotal moment? Danny, like so many children before him, was grappling with the complexities of life. Just days prior, he had experienced the loss that pierced through the innocence of his childhood. His parents had separated, tensions echoing through their once joyous household like a sinister specter. In the midst of that turmoil, Danny felt the sting of abandonment, ripped from the warmth of family and thrust into an unsettling reality. He had come to this road, seeking solace, perhaps hiding from the inevitable rawness that accompanied loneliness. In that microcosm of hurt, Max became a healing balm, the very essence of unconditional love that dogs personify. Canines have the unique ability to soothe our emotional wounds, often lowering our anxiety levels simply through their presence. American Psychological Association, 2016. As Danny buried his face in Max's neck, sobs racking his small frame, the powerful symbolism of their meeting began to unfold. Danny clung to Max, feeling the warmth of the dog's body seep into him, melting the emotional frost that bound his heart. In that moment, the boy and the German shepherd became more than just a child and a dog. They became a lifeline in a world swarming with confusion. Every heavy sigh from Danny seemed to liberate the weight upon his chest, the moisture in his eyes wicking away the helplessness he felt. But why do these intersections of empathy often occur in moments of despair? Social psychology tells us that shared moments of vulnerability create a robust bond between individuals. They draw us closer together, often blurring the lines of species. It's a visceral feeling, a recognition of struggle and suffering that elicits compassion, drawing upon our innate human nature. Animal companions unlock a vulnerability in us that allows cathartic release, as they don't possess the judgment we often fear from others. As Danny sat there, pouring his heart out to Max, something else began to stir. Just around the bend of the road, a passerby named Sarah saw the unusual pair through her car window. Curiosity tugged at her, forcing her to stop and observe this poignant scene unfolding beneath the heat of the summer sun. The sight was almost surreal, a scrappy boy clinging to a noble dog, lost in each other's worlds. Against the backdrop of a mundane day, what she witnessed unraveling before her felt extraordinary. She felt instinctively compelled to act. Sarah, a trained social worker, had devoted her life to helping children like Danny, the ones who had lost their way, who felt unseen amidst the chaos of family disconnects. As she approached slowly, mindful not to disturb the fragile moment, Sarah's heart swelled with hope. Danny's cries had softened into gentle sniffles, transformed by the presence of a devoted beast. "Hey there," she greeted warmly, kneeling down to their eye level. "I couldn't help but notice you two." Danny looked up at her, wary at first, but felt none of the hostility he often encountered from adults. There was softness in her gaze, empathy that welcomed him like an old friend. As she crouched down, Max shifted slightly, nesting his head against Danny to signal unyielding support. Without hesitation, Danny replied, I'm okay." It was a whisper, but one that held the weight of his burdens. "Sadness is okay," Sarah acknowledged gently, her voice a soothing balm against the turbulent emotions swirling within him. "Sometimes sharing your feelings helps take away the weight." Words tumbled from Danny's lips. He revealed everything, the arguments he had overheard, the disintegration of what once felt like home, the aching uncertainty of his future. Each word became an offering, a testament to vulnerability laid bare. It was in that delicate balance of trust and support that the cosmos seemed to align. Meanwhile, Max stood guard beside the boy, an unwavering sentinel in the tempest of emotions. Dogs are instinctively protective of their human companions, a behavior formulated through thousands of years of protective bonding. Here, Max absorbed the intensity of Danny's feelings, channeling strength back to him through a shared silence. As Sarah listened, something extraordinary unfolded. A biological bond of trust solidified. She extended her hand to Max, allowing him to sniff her fingers. The momentary introduction presented a new wave of acceptance for Danny, a prelude to newfound hope. Trust, like the tides, is not instantaneous, but rather builds in layers, slowly shaping relationships. In an almost cinematic moment, Danny giggled, an unfamiliar sound on his lips, as Max tentatively licked Sarah's hand, seemingly approving of her kindness. The act broke the somber seriousness that had enveloped the boy, and lifted the weight of sorrow, if only for a moment. This bond melted barriers and opened channels of communication. Laughter is often the first step toward healing, a method of vulnerability that can ease heartaches. But what would unfold next? Would this chance meeting serve merely as a fleeting flicker of hope, or could it become something more substantial? This chance nexus of lives had ignited a flame, but in this world, flames can flicker and fade without proper nourishment. Sarah, recognizing the boy's underlying need for connection, offered Danny a choice. "You know, we have a program down at the community center that could really benefit you. We help kids navigate these difficult feelings. It's a safe space, a place where we'll be surrounded by people who care." Danny hesitated, pulling his focus between the comforting gaze of Max and the uncertain invitation. His heart raced with the thought of stepping further into the unknown. At this critical juncture, letting go of his pain seemed as daunting as reaching out for warmth. Yet, in Sarah's eyes, he saw a flicker of promise and possibility that momentarily chased away the shadows. Each heartbeat echoed the age-old question: could he trust in this connection, this shared understanding, enough to take a leap into the abyss ahead? Time stretched as the weight of his previous experiences swirled in his mind. The anguish of separation from his family, the isolation that followed, and yet here was Max, rooting for him, radiating unconditional love, unwavering in devotion. That bond carved from solace, emotion, and the gentle hum of acceptance ignited something within him. In the heart of darkness, a flicker of hope surfaced, pulsating with every heartbeat. I think I'd like to," Danny finally murmured, the decision trembling on the edge of revelation. Before he could consider retreating into fear, he pressed forward, extending a hand toward Sarah, and in that small gesture, decided to reach for the dawn. But as fate would have it, their newfound connection was about to face an unforeseen test. From across the street, a man burst forth, shouting dry accusations that shattered the fragile atmosphere they had created. "What's going on here? Who is this kid?" His voice dripped with judgment, igniting further uncertainty within Danny. Fear crashed into the moment like thunder tearing through the sky. Danny recoiled instinctively, withdrawing into himself as the man loomed closer. Heart pounding, he sought refuge behind Max, the one source of solid ground he felt confident in. What would happen next? Would this tempest extinguish the flicker of hope they had just ignited? The tension hung in the air, thick as smoke, waiting to see if a single instant would snuff out the light burgeoning between them. But beneath the wild cacophony, there lay a burgeoning resilience, deep breaths, drawn in solidarity amid the chaos unfolding around them. Would they choose to drown in the weight of judgment, or rise together, forging a path lit by understanding and empathy? One thing was certain: a powerful shift was underway, as the boy and the dog prepared to face the storm that threatened to disrupt their moment of solace. A storm that might ultimately illuminate their futures in ways none could yet foresee. What happens when a moment of compassion collides with hostility? When empathy is threatened by the stark realities of the world? How do fragile connections hold against the winds of judgment? As Danny crouched behind Max, the German shepherd, a sense of dread washed over him like a heavy fog. But it was too soon to abandon the flicker of hope they had ignited. The man's booming voice cut through the serene atmosphere, demanding answers, his posture radiating an energy that was both alarming and disconcerting. "What's going on here? Why are you with this dog?" His questions were cloaked in a veil of protection, masking a deeper insecurity grounded in the human instinct to control situations filled with uncertainty. The power struggle unfolded before them in a way that threatened to dismantle everything that Danny had begun to believe about connection and safety in this fragile moment. Max, sensing Danny's rising anxiety, stood tall and firm, an unwavering fortress against an impending storm. The dog was trained not just to assist humans but to sense their needs deep within. Studies have shown that dogs can interpret human emotions variously through body language and even vocal tones. Journal of Animal Psychology, 2015. The tension in the air tightened like a coiled spring as both boy and dog, bonded by their shared experiences of sorrow, braced for what would come next. Danny's heart raced inside his chest, a drumbeat of fear clashing with the newfound courage he had felt moments ago. He longed for words to escape his lips, a defense against a world filled with misunderstanding, but they hesitated just as he did, stuck somewhere between his fear of rejection and the instinctive desire to be heard. "Hey, it's okay," Sarah interjected, her calm voice slicing through the chaos like a beacon of light. "This dog is friendly, he's not going to hurt him." Still, the man didn't relent, his brow furrowing deeper as he scrutinized the scene. His eyes darted between Max and the quivering boy behind him, unable to grasp the profound connection blossoming between them. "How do you know that? You don't know him, or this dog." His words dripped with suspicion, a reminder of the shadowy layers of fear that often govern our instincts. In the face of this abrasive confrontation, Danny finally took a deep breath, an instinct birthed from the safety Max had encircled him with. As the protective warmth of the German shepherd enveloped him, the boy found a semblance of clarity. There is a moment in drama known as the turning point, a harrowing juncture where characters confront their deepest fears or evolve into their truest selves. This moment was rapidly approaching for Danny. "Please," Danny's voice emerged raw yet firm. "He's my friend. I was sad, and he came to help me." With the weight of his experiences pressing upon him, he summoned the courage to speak what lay within his heart, the truth of his pain and the comfort he found in Max's companionship. It registered, the vulnerability in his words, the authenticity that humanized this encounter. Social psychology posits that when we open ourselves to vulnerability, it often invites others to do the same, creating a powerful spiral of empathy. Psychological Science, 2018. Within that simple act of honesty, Danny extended a bridge over the chasm of misunderstanding that had begun to form, determined to protect the bond that had blossomed between him and the dog. Max shifted subtly beside him, providing strength as Danny continued, "I just needed someone to talk to." The piercing gaze of the man softened, its hardness dissolving slightly as he registered Danny's earnestness, the emotions cascading within those small words. Danny's calm demeanor began to influence the atmosphere around them, like a stone cast in a still pond, sending ripples outward, dismantling the rigidity of fear that had initially driven the man's hostility. Even in moments of turbulence, compassion has an extraordinary way of planting seeds within us that can flourish if nurtured, shifting perceptions and outcomes. The man hesitated, searching for footing in a place where uncertainty loomed. He finally shook his head and took a step back. "All right," he said, his voice deflating. "But be careful." It wasn't a full-blown acceptance, but it was a gradual surrender to the power of vulnerability expressed through the eyes of a child and the loyalty of a dog. In that delicate silence that ensued, Max gently leaned against Danny, affirming him with a soft nuzzle. This simple gesture encompassed the delicate interplay between them, a symbiotic relationship where both offered healing to the other. Dogs, possessing an innate understanding of our emotional landscape, can often teach us how to navigate the nuances of connection. They don't ask for much, only trust, love, and companionship in return. As the tension eased, Sarah stepped forward with a subtle smile, sensing the shift in dynamics. "You see that there? No harm, just help. Sometimes it takes a bit of courage to see things differently." Her words hung in the air, laden with significance, as the three souls stood connected in a moment of unspoken understanding. Danny felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash through him, lifting the burden of isolation he had carried. The clouds of grief that had shrouded his little heart were suddenly drenched in light, as laughter bubbled forth, pure and unfiltered. So few moments exist where the collective power of connection bursts through barriers, revealing the authentic truth of human emotion. Danny's impulsive yet earnest question jarred them back into reality. Every soul present felt the poignancy of that request, a child reaching out for a thread of companionship that had touched him deeply in an inexplicable way. As if reading the unspoken words, Sarah replied, "Well, how about this? You can visit him at the shelter where he came from. They have a special program for children that need a little extra love and care." Her tone held hope, vibrancy bursting through the heaviness of earlier exchanges as she extended not just an invitation, but an entire doorway to community and understanding. Danny's eyes lit up at the prospect, grappling with the blossoming realization that this moment was more than just a fleeting encounter. It was an opportunity to cultivate bonds that knit together the very fabric of connection and love. But as fate would have it, a sudden howl from a distance tore through the soft exchanges, piercing the air like a siren. An animal control van rounded the corner, its purpose clear as it signaled the end of an era for Max and any hope of continuity for Danny's connection to him. Danny's breath hitched in his throat, panic coursing through his veins. He rushed toward the approaching vehicle, uncertainty fueling his desperation. The prospect of losing the only glimmer of companionship he'd found since his life had tipped into chaos was too much to bear. Max whined softly, his fur bristling. Sensing Danny's fear, it was a moment of crisis, a test of strength that would determine whether connection could weather turmoil. The German Shepherd's protective instincts kicked into high gear, understanding that this child had risked everything to forge a bond born out of vulnerability and kindness. The tension morphed into a palpable force, a clash between despair and the possibility of redemption. But Sarah was ready, acting swiftly as the heart of the moment pulsated between them. "It's okay, Danny," she called out, her voice steady like an anchor amidst the waves. "Let's talk to them." She hurried forward, bringing Danny, now a flurry of heightened emotion, alongside her. As they approached the van, the animal control officer eyed them skeptically. "You shouldn't be out here alone with a dog you don't know. We're here to ensure everyone's safety," he started, eyeing Max as if he were a loose cannon. But Danny, emboldened by the connection he felt with Max, and armed with the memory of their shared vulnerability, stepped forward, his voice steady now. "He's my friend. He helped me when I was sad. You don't understand." His words, raw and powerful, washed over the officer, stirring a ripple of recognition beneath the hardened facade he had built. Sometimes dogs like him are misunderstood. It's not about them being dangerous. It's about how we treat them and what we allow them to be, Sarah interjected, her insight echoing the very intentions of their encounter. The juxtaposition of a boy who had found solace in the presence of an animal trained to comfort and protect was a testament to understanding the deeper emotional aspects of society's fabric. The officer stood in silence, visibly wavering, as Danny's plea distilled the complexities of their situation. The truth is wrapped within a vulnerability we often shy away from. Encounters like these teach us the profound impact one being can have on another, across species, perspectives, and experiences. As the conversation unfolded, the clouds of judgment began to dissipate, revealing the sunlight that had been overshadowed. Hope cascaded through the exchanges, illuminating the potential for understanding. It was a moment of transformation that stretched deeper than a mere friendship. It had the power to ripple through a community. And then, just like that, a decision was made. "All right," the officer conceded with a measured nod, softening under the weight of the boy's sincerity. "We'll let you keep the dog, but remember to register him and take proper care." A collective breath of relief escaped the trio. Tears welled in Danny's eyes, gratitude and disbelief intertwining as he turned to Max, realization dawning upon him that everything he longed for was now within reach. Connection prevailed against adversity, standing resolute against the odds. In that existential whirlwind, a pivotal phenomenon unfolded. Relationships, above all else, provide the scaffolding we need to navigate through life's uncertainties. It's how we bond and understand one another that shapes the very core of who we are. As they walked home together, side by side, Danny, Sarah, and Max forged an unbreakable bond, a symphony of companionship woven together by shared experiences of vulnerability, trust, and healing. Max, with his keen instincts and unwavering loyalty, had not just weathered a storm, but transformed Danny's life, allowing a bridge of empathy to form in a time of turbulence. On that day, amidst life's complexities, a boy, a dog, and a warm-hearted woman found each other, their lives forever entwined by an unforgettable experience. This tale, one among countless in the dance of life, teaches us that true connections can defy obstacles and illuminate the path forward, even when life often obscures our vision. There, at the intersection of pain and healing, hope shimmered brightly, a reminder that the most profound bonds often arise in the most unexpected of circumstances, proving that the heart remains open to connection when we allow vulnerability to lead the way. What happens when an unexpected guardian angel arrives just when despair reaches its peak? Is it fate, or merely coincidence when an innocent heart cries out, only to be answered by a kindred spirit clad in fur? It's in these moments, the ones that seem insignificant in the grand tapestry of life, that we often find the profound power of connection. Danny sat on the side of the road, tears streaming down his cheeks. At just 8 years old, he grappled with the heartbreak of his parents' recent separation, feeling the weight of loss press down on his small frame. His world felt inverted, filled with chaos and uncertainty. In the quiet of that afternoon, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, but all Danny could hear were echoes of sorrow, reverberating in the silence of his heart. But where one boy's sorrow reaches the heavens, sometimes a hero appears in the most unassuming forms. Enter Max, the German shepherd, his instincts finely tuned to the emotional nuance of humans. It's said that dogs, particularly breeds known for their loyalty, can sense emotional shifts in their guardians. Studies suggest that canines can interpret our emotional state through a combination of body language, vocal tone, and temperature. Journal of Veterinary Behavior 2015. Max, with his deep-set eyes and a coat that shimmered as he trotted toward Danny, seemed to embody that very instinct at work. It was as if the universe conspired to bring them together, an extraordinary alignment of spirits at the intersection of healing. With his natural authority and unwavering confidence, Max approached Danny cautiously, but with purpose. The child, lost in the swell of his despair, did not initially notice the 6-foot gentle giant making his way towards him, until a soft nudge broke him from his reverie. Startled, Danny lifted his head to see Max, who instantly filled the boy's world with warmth and promise. In that moment, science and emotion intertwined brilliantly, a trigger of oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone, released into both their systems as they gazed into each other's eyes. This mingling of connection, love, and healing is well documented. Studies indicate that even a simple gaze between a human and a dog can ignite an increase in oxytocin levels, fostering trust and connection. Nature, 2009. Danny blinked, and the sadness that had etched lines across his small face began to crack. The sheer presence of this dog set something into motion within him. A brief smile, albeit tentative, blossomed as he tentatively reached out a hand to stroke Max's fur, each stroke slowly erasing the dark fog of loneliness that had enveloped him. Their connection, silent yet profound, broke down the barriers of fear and anxiety that can so easily claim a child's heart. Max sat patiently, radiating acceptance, a living testament to how animals can often become lifelines in moments of emotional turbulence. It reminded me of the ancient Greek proverb, "A friend to all is a friend to none," reframing the narrative. Sometimes, those friendships crafted from shared pain create bonds stronger than mere acquaintances can offer. Danny looked deep into Max's soulful eyes, sharing his secret, unfiltered thoughts. His voice trembled as he unveiled the raw emotions that danced upon the precipice of vulnerability. He whispered about arguments and shouting, the confusing emotions swirling around him, feelings hot and cold, like a storm he could not control. Max listened, truly listened, offering warmth as Danny unloaded his burden. But their emotional rendezvous was far from over. Just then, Sarah, a local social worker, walked past the scene. Initially, she was drawn to what appeared to be a boy in distress, sitting alone beside a beautiful dog. She sensed trouble, a nagging instinct compelling her to intervene, to assure this child that he was not alone in this world. Sarah approached cautiously, gauging the situation carefully. Danny looked up, the surprise reflected in his eyes, but instead of apprehension, he felt a flicker of something new, hope. "I think so," he mumbled, glancing at Max as he spoke. A potent silence filled the air as Sarah knelt down beside them, drawing from the child an honesty that seemed effortless. "He seems like a pretty awesome friend," she smiled, her voice warm and inviting. In that moment, the exchange fell into the realm of social psychology, the notion that social connections profoundly influence our emotional state. Studies show that humans are inherently social beings, wired for connection. The momentary bond forged between Danny, Max, and Sarah exemplified the idea that relationships serve as a buffer against the difficulties we face in life. Journal of Social Issues, 2020. As they spoke, an unshakable strength began to bloom within Danny. Entwined with the protection emanating from Max, who watched with alert eyes, ever the devoted guardian, the fear that had initially threatened to drown Danny began to recede, replaced by a newfound resilience, fueled by empathy, understanding, and a safe space to express himself. But just as the three began to settle into their moment, the world outside their bubble intruded with the distant sound of an engine rumbling down the road, a vehicle drawing closer, bringing with it a sense of urgency and concern. Danny's heart raced again, reminding him of how quickly solace could dissolve back into turmoil. The van pulled over emblazoned with the words "Animal Control" across the side, hectic urgency emanating from inside. A man stepped out, authority threading through his posture as he scanned the scene. His tone was harsh, a voice filled with skepticism as he assessed the child and dog, drawing near with a slight swagger, as if primed to intervene. Danny's chest tightened. Had they done something wrong? Was Max going to be taken away from him? Fear clawed at the edges of his mind, threatening to lacerate the fragile bond they had forged. "Wait! He's my friend!" The words burst forth from Danny's mouth, fueled by panic and fierce attachment to the four-legged creature who had found him in his darkest hour. Max barked softly, sensing the surge of fear emanating from his boy. It is fundamentally embedded in dogs. Compassionate companions can often become emotional mirrors, reflecting our unspoken sentiments. By responding to Danny's anxiety, Max reinforced that they were a team, that they would face any obstacle together. The officer's skepticism faltered for a moment, caught off guard by the surge of passion from the young boy. "I'm just doing my job, kid," he replied, though the edge in his tone softened slightly as he observed the palpable connection swirling in front of him. "We can't have dogs running loose." For a fleeting second, the momentum shifted, and Danny felt a flicker of confidence. This battle was about more than keeping Max safe. It was about expressing the deeper truth of connection. "He's not dangerous." The weight of those words hung in the air, raw and real, enough to alter minds. A moment passed as the officer's brow began to furrow. Wasn't it extraordinary how quickly a child's honesty could disarm even the most hardened hearts? That's the magic of vulnerability. It's not a weakness, but a strength, a foundational bridge that spans the gap between tumult and understanding. But before the officer could respond, the familiar sound of tension crackled in the air. The dog, a German shepherd, known for its intelligence and loyalty, wasn't going to stand idly by. Max stepped closer to Danny, standing defiant. The unseen connection coursed between them, a powerful current fueled by love and trust, while the officer tried to compose himself, eyeing them both with newfound curiosity instead of contempt. "Okay, you can keep him, but you have to be responsible," the officer said, his tone softening as the tide of understanding began to shift. The child's truth reminded him that every story is nuanced, every situation deserving of sentiment. A wave of relief washed over Danny, but the confrontation had left its mark. What had begun as an innocent plea for understanding had morphed into an awakening, a realization that he, too, could wield power in vulnerability. The delicate web of connection formed between him and Max might just possess the strength to withstand life's adversities. With the officer now vacating his authoritative stance, Danny turned to Sarah, and in her eyes he glimpsed the affirmation he craved, a reflection of strength that encouraged him to embrace what lay ahead. "Thank you for believing in me," he whispered, unsure of much, but certain of this feeling. As Danny reunited with Max, they exchanged unspoken promises, an acknowledgement that life wouldn't always be easy, but together they could find courage even in the face of uncertainty. They had ventured from a place of despair to a realm of possibility. Every gentle nudge and shared moment had forged an unbreakable bond between them. And right there, in the fading light of that summer day, a quiet determination filled the air. It resonated through the words spoken, through the tenderness of connection, illuminating the belief that healing could be found in the unlikeliest of places. Together, they would walk through whatever came next, ready to embrace life's unpredictability with open hearts. As they began to walk home, a narrative narrated not just by words, but by connection blossomed. Each step was laden with the promise of exploration and the artistry of resilience, sewn deftly into the landscape of their lives. The bond they created was a blanket woven from love, trust, and an endless curiosity for what lay ahead. But in life, no journey comes without its challenges. As they turned the corner, a looming presence began to take shape, an ominous shadow that stretched across their path. A sense of foreboding surrounded them, reminding everyone that a story is far from linear, paved with obstacles that could easily unravel even the most profound connections. And so, as the sun set on that fateful day, the road ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty. Would Danny and Max's bond withstand the trials that lay ahead, or would the world threaten to pull them apart once more? The answer lingered in the air, pregnant with possibility, a tale waiting to unravel, full of unexpected turns yet to come. What happens when a heart opens in vulnerability, and an unexpected friend appears? Is it mere coincidence, or do the threads of destiny weave together at precisely the right moment? The dance between despair and hope is often the backdrop for stories that change lives, and this one would be no different. In the aftermath of their astonishing encounter, where a young boy named Danny, lost in sorrow, found solace in the gentle nudge of a German shepherd named Max, the air buzzed with the electricity of transformation. The boy had been sitting by the road, tears cascading down his cheeks, drowning in the tumult of his emotions. A child grappling with the weight of his parents' recent separation, feeling more alone than the world would ever know. It's a heartbreak that transcends age, that lingers in the shadows of any child who has been torn from the fabric of familiar love. As they shared a moment of connection, enveloped in an understanding that ran deeper than words, the scene painted an almost vibrant picture of healing. Max, with his soft, penetrating eyes, became a silent witness to Danny's plight, representing loyalty and compassion in a world that often felt chaotic and unforgiving. Indeed, dogs have an extraordinary ability to provide emotional support. Studies have shown that just petting a dog can significantly lower cortisol levels, the stress hormone. Human-Animal Interaction Bulletin, 2020. What unfolded between them was not mere happenstance, but a phenomenon rooted in social psychology, a concept known as emotional contagion. When we connect with someone in emotional distress, we often adopt their feelings, experiencing them ourselves. In Danny's case, Max offered not only companionship, but also a safe haven for the boy's vulnerability. Yet, just as the shadows of healing began to fade the darkness for Danny, reality loomed ahead, the harsh intrusion of an animal control van appearing at the edge of his newfound sanctuary, a specter of authority threatening to sever their bond. Danny exclaimed, his voice high and filled with a trembling urgency. Even in the face of profound fear, he summoned the strength embedded within vulnerability. It was both a plea and an assertion of the resilience he didn't know he possessed. With every fiber of his being, Danny fought for a connection that had become a lifeline. As we delve deeper into this unfolding drama, we begin to explore not just the surface of desperation, but the profound layers of connection intertwined within our lives. Max, through his unwavering presence, became more than just a dog. He became a portal for empathy, revealing the essential truth that we all crave understanding and companionship in our darkest hours. But what could be done now? The tension was palpable as Danny locked eyes with the animal control officer, a stranger caught in a storm of his own making. The officer, trained to intervene, to uphold the rules of safety for both humans and animals, appeared momentarily taken aback by the fierce determination radiating from the shape of the small child. This emotional tableau played out like a movie scene, powerful and raw, showcasing the intricate dance between authority and the unyielding tenacity of a broken heart yearning for love. Animals can't just roam freely, the officer began, his words unintentionally colored with a rhetoric of authority. Yet, layers of doubt began to surface as he observed the boy's fragile yet fervent spirit. It was a moment that every social psychologist recognizes as pivotal, the shift from an authoritative stance to an empathetic being, where emotions can transform the dynamic of power. Suddenly, Sarah, a social worker out for her afternoon walk, sped toward the scene, a beacon of compassion, weathering the storm brewing on the horizon. She had witnessed the unfolding drama from afar, drawn in by the magnetic pull of emotion. She asked, her voice an oasis amidst the tension. Danny, still clutching Max's fur, turned to Sarah, his eyes pleading. "He's my friend." The words exploded as if released from a dam, raw and unfiltered. At that moment, Danny embodied every child torn from stability, fighting for validation in a world that often demands silence. Max shifted, instinctively positioning himself closer to the boy, radiating warmth and reassurance. This was an unlikely alliance, a testament to the bonds that can be forged in the heart of turmoil. Sometimes, a connection so profound can become our sources of strength, Sarah explained to the officer, her gaze unwavering. Dogs like Max provide comfort during difficult times. Her words dripped with insight, a reminder of the unseen support systems that weave through the fabric of our lives. Indeed, social psychology explores how human connections, particularly those rooted in emotional experiences, act as profound catalysts for change. It's a reminder that healing often thrives in community, within the kindness of those willing to look beyond the surface, to discover the profound emotional landscapes beneath. As the conversation unfolded, a remarkable shift in perspective emerged, one that offered a glimpse into the potential for resolution. The officer looked between the boy, the dog, and Sarah. The once rigid lines between authority and compassion blurred. "Well, okay, buddy," he said, uncertainty weaving through his tone. A collective exhale surged through the air, a symphony of relief mixed with excitement filling the spaces between them. They had reached an understanding, a glimmer of hope pushing back against the shadows that had threatened their fragile connection. As Danny smiled through his tears, embodying the suspension of disbelief that often accompanies moments of genuine connection, Max barked softly, his tail wagging furiously, a sign of joy that resonated in the hearts of all present. The cinematics of the moment became a poignant reminder that within human experiences, no matter how isolated one might feel, support and understanding were often just a breath away. It's a truth embedded deeply within the tapestry of life, capturing the resilience of the human spirit as it intertwines with the compassionate instincts of our animal companions. But just as harmony began to embrace the trio, fate had other plans. The distance grew suddenly foreboding as ominous clouds darkened the horizon, a dramatic shift that foreshadowed looming challenges ahead. It didn't take long for them to realize that, while they had triumphed over immediate obstacles, the path forward would not be smooth. As they began to walk away from the scene, a menacing rumble echoed in the distance, drawing the trio's attention. Max instinctively halted, his posture changing entirely, filled with alerts and awareness. The darkened road stretched before them, and in the shadows loomed another vehicle. This time, it wasn't the familiar face of an animal control officer, but rather a menagerie of loud, squawking birds, flapping at once and creating a sudden disturbance. Both Danny and Sarah turned to the oncoming chaos, confusion painting their expressions. They had fought hard to protect a connection forged in the depths of despair, only to be confronted now by something far less defined, a threat they hadn't anticipated. In that moment, it became painfully clear that life's unpredictability could sprout from even the most innocent circumstances. The bond between Danny and Max was now caught in the crossfire of uncertainty, illustrating how fragile connections could be when faced with external pressures. Would Max's fiercely protective instincts be enough to shield Danny from whatever was coming next? The answer teetered on the edge of the unknown, a cliff of uncertainty from which decisions would be born and paths would diverge. Amidst the tumult, as they ventured into the unknown, hearts pounding, the narrative hung suspended in tension, caught in that liminal state between safety and vulnerability. What lay ahead for Danny and Max? Would their connection withstand the test of time, or would it evaporate like mist before the sun, lost amidst the complexities and unpredictability of existence? The stage was set, the stakes elevated. As they pressed onward, the anticipation infused with trepidation wove a new chapter for each of them, one that would challenge not just their resilience but the very fabric of their bond. For in every shared glance and muted whimper, one thing was certain. The beauty of life lay not in the certainty of outcomes, but in the courage to embrace the journey, come what may. And there, on that treacherous pathway, the heart of the story beat louder than ever, echoing the truth that connection is both a sanctuary and a battleground. As their journey continued, the world glared back with questions unanswered, whispering into the wind about the choices that could forever alter the course of their lives. Imagine this. You're walking down a quiet road, the sun dips low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the pavement. And then you happen upon a scene that tears at your heartstrings. A small boy, no older than 8, sitting on the roadside, tears streaming down his cheeks. What do? Do you keep walking, lost in your own world, or do you stop and intervene? For a German shepherd named Max, this moment would act as a crossroads, guiding him with an unyielding sense of purpose. Max wasn't just any dog. He was a well-trained German shepherd, his senses finely attuned to the emotional currents around him. As Danny wept, mourning the painful fracture of his family due to his parents' recent separation, it would be Max who felt a tugging at the very essence of his being. Dogs possess an extraordinary ability to interpret the emotional states of humans, a concept explored in a study from the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna, which found that dogs can indeed discern human emotions simply by observing facial expressions. This innate sensitivity would prove pivotal. Max approached Danny, cautiously but confidently, drawn to the boy's cries as if magnetized by an invisible force. The whimper of a child in distress is often more profound to animals than we care to realize. It resonates with a primal instinct, a call to support and protect. And there was no doubt. Max felt that call echoing deep within him. He nudged Danny's arm gently, his warm breath washing over the boy like a reassuring wave. For a fleeting second, the boy's sobs stuttered, curiosity momentarily eclipsing his sorrow. The connection was instantaneous, a binding thread forged in the fire of shared emotion. Danny looked into those trusting eyes, and finally, a spark of recognition flickered within him. "Hi," he whispered, his voice quavering yet intrigued, searching for solace in those deep, expressive brown eyes. In that moment, without uttering a single word, Max had become a lifeline, a silent warrior waging battle against the darkness that threatened to consume the boy. It's often said that the antidote to despair is not merely understanding, but connection itself, a reality grounded firmly in social psychology. The Human Animal Bond Research Institute has shown that interactions between humans and animals can foster feelings of comfort and help alleviate loneliness and stress, especially in children. Danny reached out tentatively, his small fingers brushing against Max's fur, and the child felt an inexplicable weight lift, just enough for hope to seep in. In that tranquil moment, the world beyond blurred, the throbbing ache of his parents arguing, the unsettling loneliness that clung to him like a second skin. Nothing mattered except the comforting presence that had found him. But just as the boy began to find a glimmer of hope, reality crashed back in. A sudden rumble of tires on gravel echoed down the road, snapping Danny out of his fragile reverie. An animal control van, marked with a bright logo, pulled to a stop nearby, the sudden tension creating a palpable shift in the air. The engine's hum faded, replaced by the abrupt clang of a door swinging open, a reminder that not all encounters are life-affirming. A tall man stepped out, authority radiating from his stance, and Danny felt his heart sink once again. "Hey!" The officer's voice carried a mix of curiosity and concern, but Danny felt fear creep back in, crawling across his skin. Would they take Max away? After all, how could a child like him possibly understand the complicated world of regulations and laws regarding animals? He scrambled to his feet, his protective instincts flaring as he interposed himself between Max and the newcomer. He cried, determination igniting a fire in his chest. In those vulnerable seconds, a psychological shift began to unfold. Danny wasn't simply a scared boy anymore. He was fighting for his connection, and in that fierce moment of vulnerability, he mirrored Max's loyal spirit. Social psychology tells us that when we face adversity, the bonds we cherish become even more fortified, an axiom illustrated every day in the resilience seen among humans and animals alike. The officer paused, evidently caught off guard by the child's impassioned plea. His brow furrowed, and Danny's heart raced as he realized that this cocky authority figure might just see the truth buried under layers of duty, a boy clinging desperately to the warmth of companionship in a fractured world. In the vulnerability of Danny's words, the officer found the quiet strength blossoming from those two unlikely allies, a boy and his dog. Just then, Sarah, a local social worker out for a walk, appeared in view, her familiar face providing a much-needed touch of reassurance. She had noticed something amiss from a distance. Compassion was her trade, and she was drawn instinctively, much like Max had been. She asked, kneeling to meet Danny's gaze. Doubt shredded the air for a moment, a bubbling uncertainty about how quickly a child's emotional world could tip from despair to joy, and then back again. But Sarah, honed by years of understanding, saw the embrace of pain and hope nestled within the shaky bond. "He's just a boy looking for a friend," she said softly, glancing knowingly at Danny. The officer's expression shifted slightly, perhaps a seed of understanding taking root. The child had captured a truth, revealing the complexities that challenge every adult in the room. While authority seeks to impose order, there are moments where compassion must overshadow rules. This truth resonated like ripples in a pond. The delicate balance of authority and empathy danced between them. In that space, Danny felt bolstered by their support. "He keeps me safe," he whispered, and he wasn't wrong. As the oxytocin in their shared glances surged, enveloping them in a cocoon of camaraderie, the boy dared to believe that perhaps he could hold on to Max for just a little longer. But just as the weight began to ease, a noise shattered the fragile peace. A cacophony of squawking birds erupted suddenly from the trees nearby, flapping and screeching as panic swept through the air. Max barked, his protective instincts erupting into action, a true guardian prepared to face whatever threats might arise. The shards of their moment hung precariously as the officer stepped back, confused by the unexpected turn of events. He exclaimed, eyes darting from Danny to the birds to Max in a chaotic flurry of uncertainty. Danny, filled with trepidation, clung tightly to Max's collar. "Okay, boy, it's okay," he whispered, sensing that their bond was being tested once again. The bird squawking gradually subsided, but the moment had rippled through the tension. What would come next was now shrouded in uncertainty. As they stood frozen, the turmoil of their situation washed over them like the sudden storm clouds framing the horizon. Would they emerge from this as stronger allies, or be swallowed by the tumult of chaos that daily life often propels? The journey of connection often lies steeped in the fragility of circumstance, where we must confront the very real possibility of losing what we love. In a delicate moment sheltered by anticipation, Sarah knelt down, her soothing voice cutting through the noise. "This is what you do, Day. Stay close to Max." Instinctively, Max growled softly, his stance unwavering, sending a message of confidence that transcended words. For him, Danny was more than a child in need. He was family, and family always protects. And so as they weathered the storm together, a young boy and his dog, an understanding dawned. The world could be unforgiving, chaotic, and unpredictable, but within their shared vulnerability seethed a power that defied social norms. Each moment forged memories that would endure beyond the initial crisis, deepening the bond that melded them into a collective entity. But as Danny, Max, Sarah, and the officer collectively held their breath against the clamor, a larger truth crested just beyond the horizon. Buried beneath layers of obligation and fraught emotions lay a whisper of magic. What if, within the storm of life, every encounter reshaped who we were meant to be? What if despair was merely a stepping stone toward discovering deeper waters of connection, boundless empathy, and transformative love? These intersections of pain and comfort, empowerment and shared resilience hold the potential to redefine the narrative of our lives. And as the birds settled, fear ebbed away into something more potent, hope. In that singular moment, Danny felt it pulse through him like electricity. They would move forward, come what may, hearts intertwined by circumstance, each step toward the unknown, another chapter waiting to unfold. Would the heavy weight of uncertainty yield the precious gift of connection, or would they crumble under the pressure of fear? With hearts pounding and shadows shifting, Danny tightened his grip on Max's collar, their bond fortified amid the storm. Each breath became a testament to the resilience of their spirits as they braced against the world, the boy and the dog, intertwined on a path destined for discovery. And in that breath, as they faced what lay ahead, one question hung heavy in the air. Could they challenge the odds and emerge triumphant in a world often filled with darkness? The answer would reveal itself in time, woven into the intricate threads of their story, pulsing with the promise of connection that lingered just beyond their reach, waiting to be grasped. The scene held a defining moment cradled in tension, a question mark poised to cascade into an answer that would ultimately reshape their lives. For every story has a beginning, a middle, and a pending conclusion, but some outcomes linger on the precipice of unknown potential, daring the protagonists to take that next step. And as a sense of determination wrapped around them like a cloak, a simple truth remained: love, connection, and companionship are powerful forces, able to transcend the very barriers that often seek to divide us. The journey would continue for Danny, Max, and Sarah, each of them carrying the weight of their story into the unknown, brave enough to navigate the turbulent waters ahead, together. What awaits them at the turn of the road? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: they would not walk it alone. What happens when a boy who feels invisible meets an unexpected hero? It's a question that echoes through the narrative of countless lives, each answer unique, yet tethered to the fundamental truth of our shared human experience. The road was quiet that day, framed by swaying trees and softened by the golden hue of the sun, peaceful on the surface, but beneath that tranquility lay a storm brewing in a small boy's heart. Danny had sat alone, overwhelmed by the emotional aftermath of his parents' separation, lost within the tangled web of confusion and heartache. Just as hope seemed to flicker into darkness, a German shepherd named Max appeared, standing resolute as a pillar of unwavering support. As Max approached Danny, the boy's tears were met with gentle eyes filled with understanding, a silent promise that he was not alone. Those first gestures of connection initiated a ripple effect, shimmering warmth in an otherwise cold reality. But just as their bond began to solidify, the specter of impending reality loomed, and with it came the tension that would threaten to unravel everything they were beginning to weave together. The quiet hum of an approaching vehicle interrupted the stillness, transforming the serene scene into a tableau of uncertainty. An animal control van, its exterior adorned with a bright logo, came to a stop a few yards away, the clamor of the engine fading as its door swung open. Out stepped a tall figure, a man whose very presence embodied authority. He called out, a mix of curiosity and caution threading through his tone. Danny's heart raced, trepidation blooming in the pit of his stomach as he instinctively shielded Max, placing his small body in front of the dog. He shouted, the raw desperation in his voice a testament to the connection that had just begun to blossom. In that moment, he was no longer merely a child lost in sorrow, but a boy determined to fiercely protect the bond he had found with this animal, who had effortlessly stepped into a role of emotional savior. Max stood unwavering, his thick fur bristling gently as he sensed the shift in Danny's emotions, an emotion coursing through them both, binding them against the world's uncertainty. Social psychology illuminates this dance between humans and animals, particularly through the lens of the attachment theory pioneered by John Bowlby, which reveals how emotional bonds influence our relationships and behavior. It encapsulates the essence of what Danny was experiencing that day, his emotions coiled tightly around Max, who hadn't just offered companionship, but had become a beacon of hope amidst his turbulent feelings. As the officer regarded the scene, uncertainty flickered across his face. He hadn't anticipated such a passionate response from a child. Perhaps he had come to enforce the law, but perhaps he would find himself challenged by the very nature of humanity revealed before him. It was a pivotal moment where duty collided with empathy, the underlying truths of connection surfacing powerfully, as they often do when faced with vulnerability. Before the officer could respond, Sarah, a local social worker who had been walking in the vicinity, rushed over. She had witnessed the tense scenario unfold from a distance, her instincts propelling her toward what she recognized as not just a boy and a dog, but a fragile bond that deserved safeguarding. She asked, her voice a soothing balm in the charged environment. Danny turned to her, wide-eyed and imploring. "He's my friend." His words poured out, raw and sincere, capturing the essence of what he had felt since first encountering Max. Sarah knelt down beside Danny, her gaze softening as she realized the depth of connection present between them. "And that's important," she affirmed, her voice steady and full of compassion. "Animals can be so helpful in tough times." A psychological shift began to settle in as the officer absorbed her words, the weight of duty momentarily eclipsed by the grace of understanding. The bond between Danny and Max was bridging the gap between fear and authority, transforming an impending sense of loss into a burgeoning awareness of connection. In that poignant moment, science flickered alive. Studies indicate that children who form strong, positive bonds with animals cultivate higher levels of emotional intelligence, empathy, and resilience. This bond was more than just a fleeting connection. It was an emotional lifeline. Max had a role not just as a pet, but as a vital part of Danny's healing journey. Yet, even amidst this newfound understanding, a sudden disturbance erupted, shattering the fragile calm. A cacophony of squawking birds burst forth, an unexpected upheaval that sent jitters of instinct through both Danny and Max. The raucous noise seemed to ignite something primal in Max. He barked fiercely, stepping protectively in front of Danny, his whole being focused on the threat of the chaos overhead. "Danny," Danny shouted, sensing his friend's tension. But in that chaotic moment, Danny felt the world tip once more into uncertainty. The officer stepped back, startled not just by the noise, but by the interplay of fear and loyalty unfolding before him. The vibrant scene held its breath as they all stood on the precipice of a new truth. Having been on the front lines of both social work and the unpredictable nature of life, Sarah pivoted, sensing an opportunity amidst the whirlwind. "Danny, it's all right. We can face this together," she encouraged, softly nudging the boy's protective demeanor. Her words rumbled through the air, and for a fleeting moment, they did indeed feel like a testament to courage. The wild cries of the birds faded into the background, though not without leaving a poignant reminder of unpredictability, a challenge that can emerge from the most serene moments of comfort. Just as easily, something gentle can morph into chaos, prompting a key realization that control is but an illusion, and in moments of unease, the power of companionship rises to extraordinary heights. Fear began to dissipate as Danny locked eyes with Max. He could sense the dog searching for solace in him just as much as he sought it in the dog. They understood each other, their shared vulnerability becoming palpable, a thread weaving their fate even tighter. At that moment, resolution began to pave its way through the thick fog of uncertainty. The officer, witnessing the boys' resilience and the fortitude of their bond, found himself reconsidering the weight of authority resting on his shoulders. "Okay, buddy," he said, turning back to Danny. It was an unexpected shift, the outcome of which resonated with a profound question. Could this moment rewrite the narratives of everyone involved, reshaping their individual experiences into a tapestry of shared understanding? As Danny bent down to give Max a loving scratch behind the ears, warmth flooded through him. Just like that, the tension that had choked the air began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of relief. In this simple act, he felt understood, not just as a boy seeking connection, but as a young soul deserving of love and support when the world seemed bleak and unkind. But the narrative was still unfolding, the journey peppered with the unexpected. Just as the atmosphere turned hopeful, another vehicle rounded the corner at a brisk pace, and a new layer of tension seeped back into the day. This was not just any car, it was the unmistakable vehicle of Danny's mother. Panic flickered in Danny's chest. Would she understand? Would she see the solace Max provided amidst a backdrop filled with tumultuous emotions? Would she embrace this connection, or would they be forced apart once again? The scene grew heavy. Inevitably, she would see her son with a German shepherd he hadn't been permitted to keep. The questions unspooled in Danny's mind, spiraling into uncertainty. As the car came to a stop and his mother stepped out, the air thickened with expectation. She glanced around, noting the presence of Danny, the officer, and Sarah, but her eyes fixed on Max. The initial frown etched deep on her brow signaled her disapproval, but as those fierce eyes met Danny's, something shifted. She called out, her tone a mixture of worry and maternal instinct, laced with confusion. He took a breath, bracing himself for impact. He shouted, his voice rising, building in determination. In a moment stitched together by the threads of hope and fear, he stepped forward. "Max is my friend." He stood firm, narrowing the space between them, embodying the protective spirit that had risen within him so unapologetically. For a heartbeat, time stretched, suspended by the weight of their shared history, shadows of the pain yet to be healed and the choices that had led them here. In that frozen moment, the question of who'd prevail lingered heavy in the air. Did the unraveling of their circumstances mean they would cement a rift further dividing them? Or could they weave new understanding, tethered by the invisible threads of connection and compassion forged through adversity? As their eyes locked, Danny felt an unyielding sense of conviction arise, a powerful display of how connections could serve as anchors in turbulent seas of life. Perhaps it wasn't just about retaining Max, but about recognizing the healing potential in the raw honesty they had explored together. What would happen next was unknown, the path ahead shrouded in the fog of future decisions yet to be made. But one thing was clear, the journey toward healing could only begin when one commits to embracing love in its many forms. Together, in that charged moment, with Max's steady presence, lending strength to Danny's defiance. The world around them whispered of possibility. The ties binding them could be redefined. They had the power to reshape their decisions, whether it meant bonding together in a new way or perhaps heralding a new understanding. And as the sun dipped lower on the horizon, framing the scene in a lighter glow, Danny knew that whatever emotions ebbing within the heart of his mother and the hum of Max beside him, This was just the beginning, a chapter filled with potential, discovery, and ultimately, what it truly means to love and be loved. The stage was set for transformation, temporarily suspended in time, hand in paw, hearts entwined, as they faced the emergence of a new reality that could forever change the course of their lives. In that space between fear and understanding, the echoes of their laughter and love awaited them, ready to lead them further into the unknown, wherein lies not just recovery, but the thrill of discovering what it means to heal. And so, the journey continued, one marked by companionship, vulnerability, and the unyielding quest for connection that could transcend all boundaries. What would happen in the following moments, as hearts challenged the chaos surrounding them, remained just beyond the horizon, waiting to be discovered? Would they emerge stronger, deeper in love as a family reunited, or find themselves standing at the crossroads yet again, forging unexpected new paths? Only time would reveal the truth that lay nestled beneath the shadows of uncertainty. And as they stood there together, against the backdrop of the fading light, one undeniable truth rang out. Love, in all its forms, was the greatest journey of all.